Benjamin Netanyahu's handling of the hostage crisis has become one of the most divisive issues and questions in Israeli policies and in Israeli politics. It's families of those still trapped in Gaza. Army chiefs and opposition voices all argue that securing their release should be the government's top priority, yet Netanyahu has now rejected even partial deals, prompting accusations that he is sacrificing lives for his own political survival. At their latest meeting, IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir pressed for negotiations. Hamas had signalled willingness for a partial release. Netanyahu, however, dismissed this framework as irrelevant and insisted it was not on the table. Instead, the cabinet discussed military escalation in Gaza City and how to counter moves by countries such as the UK to recognise Palestinian statehood. In effect, hostages were absent from Netanyahu's agenda. The Hostages and the Missing Families Forum, representing families of the abducted, put it bluntly, Netanyahu is sacrificing the hostages and soldiers on the altar of his political survival, and this is the brutal claim that human lives are being subordinated to coalition arithmetic and Netanyahu's determination to project toughness. Netanyahu governs with a fragile coalition dominated by ultra-nationalist partners such as Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. For them, any deal with Hamas risks being painted as surrender, and keeping the war alive and avoiding concessions sustains their ideological agenda and Netanyahu's hold on power. A partial deal would test his coalition to breaking point. Zamir, the IDF chief, emphasized that preventing a nuclear Iran and destroying Hamas are strategic priorities, but he also acknowledged the urgency of saving lives now. To brand him a coward, as Orit Strock reportedly did, shows the deep split between those who measure success by battlefield escalation and those who measure it by the preservation of Israeli lives. The claim that Netanyahu is sacrificing hostages touches on a profound moral question. Is the state prepared to endanger its own citizens in order to achieve longer-term political or military goals? For many Israelis, this evokes an inversion of the covenant between state and people. The government exists to protect its citizens, not to gamble with their lives. And families of the abducted continue to protest outside Netanyahu's office. Their cry is simple: bring them home. But these demonstrations are increasingly ignored. Instead, the government celebrates military successes such as the killing of Hamas spokesman Abu Obaida, symbolic victories that do not alter the fact that the hostages remain in peril. Journalists such as Lisi Doucet remind us that the innocent are there on both sides: Israeli hostages in Gaza, Palestinian children in the ruins of Gaza City. To reject deals is to prolong suffering on both fronts. International opinion has shifted, and Israel risks being seen as deliberately obstructing humanitarian outcomes. So why Netanyahu's stance? Partly it's about internal survival. If Netanyahu accepts a partial deal, his coalition may fracture. If he continues the war, he can postpone a reckoning over his own corruption trial and political failures. For critics, this is the real hostage: Israel's democracy itself, tied up in the calculations of one man's desperation. And in fact, there are parallels to be made between Netanyahu and Putin, are there not? The accusation that Netanyahu is sacrificing hostages is not mere rhetoric. It reflects the lived anguish of families, the warnings of generals, and the judgment of many Israelis that politics is being put before people. The longer the hostages remain in Gaza, the harsher that accusation will sound. In the end, history may remember not only how Israel fought Hamas, but how it treated its own citizens when their lives hung in the balance.